Well, let's get started. Hello, my name is Solimar Sala, Vice President of Content and Innovation in Audio in the Museum of Latin American Art. We want to welcome you on December 1st on MOLAA Zoom Project with Delia Cancela. Our Chief Curator, Gabriel Arteaga, is going to be having a conversation with our artist and talking about her current work and all of her long-term feelings. And also, we want to thank the Miller Film Foundation, California families, and for all the support for this programming for the Latin American art. For everybody's enjoyment, we will have interpretation available. All participants have to select their preferred language at the bottom of the screen with the word interpretation with the globe icon. The interpretation will be from Spanish to English.
We will conduct the entire session in Spanish. Please switch over to the English channel at the bottom of your screen. En cada capítulo,
in each chapter, talking with our chief curator and artists, we're going to be focusing on certain specific artwork that they require a more descriptive aspect of each, and we're going to be deepening with conversations, her research, inspiration, with an effort to take us through their imagination and artwork. From MOLAA Zoom Project, we're going to be interviewing Delia Cancela. Born in 1940 in Argentina, she studied in fine arts schools, living in Paris and Buenos Aires, and also from the Instituto Vanguardista from Tella, Argentina in 1960s, where she participated with different expositions and visualization artwork and experiences in 68. And she also conducted a fashion show called Riesgo or Risk. She also traveled to Paris with the government funding. In 1960, she actually lived in New York, and she ended up in London with her partner, Mesejean. Working with Pablo and Delia in London, her work received several acknowledgments and recognitions. In 1975, both moved to Paris, where they presented their collections, combining fashion and performance. In 2018, the modern art in Argentina also was able to demonstrate other artwork as other art international artists in conjunction with both in 2020. And now her woman is in Brooklyn in New York installed, which is a exhibition that is consecutive and continuously. Pop International Walk Off Center of Minneapolis, and in the Dallas Museum of Art from 2016, and the museum in Philadelphia in 2017. She also participated in the World Goes Pop in the Tate Modern in 2015. And now we want to remind you that we do have interpretation available, and all participants must select their language of their preference at the bottom of the screen where you see the icon of a globe. She will be speaking in Spanish and it will be interpreted by our interpreter. Thank you so much, Gabriela. And I will give you the audience now, hand it over to you. Thank you so much, Solimar. Thank you for the entire MOLAA team. Welcome, everybody, to MOLAA. Thank you so much for joining today. And with the great artist, Delia Cancela. Delia, great to see you and to have this conversation with you. It's a pleasure to be here. For me, it's already nighttime. Yes, for you guys, it's morning, but for me, it's already nighttime. It's a pleasure to see you after so long. Thank you so much for the invite. For us, it's an honor knowing that your agenda doesn't stop, that you're in Paris, as you mentioned. It's already 8 p.m. You were close with your artist Celeste, who's a great artist. Out of my love for both of you. And Delia, I will want to share with the audience. I have the great pleasure and personally and professionally to know you for already for several years, to have conducted a lot of great projects in Argentina and to be alongside with you and celebrate all of your achievements in locally and internationally. And I wanted to say that you are a sensible artist, fulfilling, and you were able to create a unique style and very unique, make it your own in the contemporary art. All of my admire you for you and not just Latin America, but also worldwide. Today, we're going to share a bit with the audience about your legacy, your work, and you're part of a influential group in the international affluence, and you were part of the vanguard in Argentina, also the Instituto Di Tella in the 60s and 70s. And to start our conversation, I would like to for you to give us a general overview of when you started, your inspirations, your research, which clearly is connected with the multidisciplinary vision. And also, so we can go over your artwork until we get to your current artwork in Mortaval Museum. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself briefly? Well, after all the wonderful things that you've said about me, with the little bit of voice that I have right now, because I'm feeling well, I have a cold. I don't know well, the beginnings, just like any other, they were great. Let's say in a country, let's say going through rough times, and they were great because we had Instituto Di Tella, who pretty much brought everybody together, all teenagers. We were all in our 20s, and thanks that there were people like Romero Bres, Samuel Paz, we created a force, a, a great creative energy. And I think that did that was something that did really good for all of us. And that happened such a long time. My beginnings, I come out of school from fine arts, that's what I studied. And I come out from school and I go directly with a great professor, was Hernandez Muro, who introduced me to Beristimar, all of the artwork and pieces at that time. And that's where I was discovered by Romero Obres. And that's what happened. And let's say I didn't have to do a lot of efforts per se. Things are not like today per se. Maybe there were more things just flow better because there was less of us. It was interesting. I start working by myself with my broken hearts, the idea that the feminine condition, for me, it was very important to work on that with having a lot of questions because I always question myself and I still do so. I question and I question myself, what's happening? Why? So I started working with those women, those collages that I used to create, where it talked about girls not going out on their own. For instance, why women had to do beauty contests, why they look at their bodies. I was pretty much a feminist without even knowing it. One of the first feminists. Then, of course, when I traveled to to the US and then Paris, obviously I discovered everything that was happening. And it was really important for me, for my work, and also for my development. But those beginnings, I know Pablo Mesejean, who is also an artist, and we got married. Great. And Delia, a lot of times I've heard you that you're an artist that uses the language as a key corner piece. And we want to focus on the faces with Vogue magazine, your creation that creates important collections with the museums around the world, with the museum around the world in London. Tell us about that phase, which was really special, where you used to work alongside with your partner, Pablo Mesejean, your partner in your working partner in life as well. Tell us about the beauty pictures. And you guys used to publish all these collections based with Pablo and Delia and Pablo. I I want to talk a bit more about that, about the language, art language, fashion, and how I was working with them for more than 20 years, that collaboration behind the scenes with the creative processes. Now, I can say that what we're looking at right now, in reality, the first image where you see both women is a collage that I created in 1962 by myself. Pablo wasn't there. It's a collage that that I took them out from the Vogue magazine. And aside from that, the first phase that I created with Vogue in English, and it's something great because both talk about the same thing. They talk about nature, relationship of the woman, their body, and vice versa, which starts with me since the beginning. Why the idea of fashion in magazines? Because my dad had a business of magazines and newspaper. So we used to receive those and I fell in love with them. And for me, it was important. I'm going to turn this off here. It was very important. All of that world, the fashion world, which then I incorporated and it was part of my life. The fashion aspect, for instance, when I talk about the magazines, when we created with Pablo the bulk of magazines that we created and the content didn't matter, but for us it's important. The content of the magazine was actually the drawings, the fashion drawings. And this came about, the things that I received that they brought them out, that they had, and they used to leave them around my house, and I used to open up and see what was happening. That's the beginning that we can say I had. In reality, the fashion, we also have that in Buenos Aires. What happens really, something really important in fashion is when we come to New York and also when we arrive in London. Yes, I was thinking about that poetic and imaginative and free aspects that you guys had. And you guys were also pioneers with fashion shows, having dancers, people who sat on the floors, like Experience 68, and then Ropa con Riesgo with Itel. In that case, Delia, we wanted to know on having that influence, that creation, kind of like a nomad that evolve in Buenos Aires, also New York, Paris, London, and to know what is it that you guys were actually providing with the Latin American perspective. And what did you guys receive from those huge countries from Buenos Aires from the 60s and 70s? I think that in a way, we are part of the place where we're located at. When we were with Pablo in Buenos Aires and when we started, we that was our city. When we figured out with Pablo that we couldn't do what we wanted to do, which our desires and experiences to do things, whatever we wanted to do in that time, we couldn't do them in Buenos Aires. We left and we were living in New York and London. London, all doors open. And if we went with the project as working artists, working in fashion, and Robin Ingles opened the doors. During that time, Grace Collington, a young journalist like us, she had our age, and right away she saw us in that phase where we could create, and that's where other things started. What we're seeing right now, it's a fashion show in Paris, in the Palace Theater. I think that's in 1977 or 78. Yes. The idea to do this freely, being an artist, we were convinced that we were able to create anything we wanted. We can express ourselves with the medium or with the thing that we wanted to, and we achieved that. We were able to create great performances, fashion shows, collections without losing that artist spirit, which is the most important thing for me. Totally, totally. And 5 sessions. It's difficult. It's not easy. That's one of the hardest things to do, to continue being expressing freely what you want, and what a best instrument to use that, which is art, which is the freedom by itself. Yes, for me, art is that. Art is what makes us feel free, what gives us want to do things in the morning, which is important. Because what happens is that I continue the same. Sometimes I wake up at 5 in the morning and I start imagining things that I want to do already with other projects. And maybe at noon, maybe I think about those projects and don't work, and then other ones come up. Art is what take us there to live and fulfill. And it's art is really important because it has been shown now that we've been through the pandemic, the shutdowns, on how important art is. For instance, I started to getting a little bit uncomfortable, getting desperate when there was a shutdown, because I was thinking, how am I gonna communicate with my daughter? She lives in Paris. I am in Buenos Aires. I'm not gonna be able to travel. I'm not gonna be able to do this. So I started to think, how can I connect with her? When she was a little girl, we used to play little games, which is a game from the surrealist artist. And I said, let's do that. And starting from there, we created what we called Nosotras Cautivas, which we wanted to name in feminine because titles tend to be males or masculine. And I'm not sure how many artists we have. I think it's 80 of us, which is a dialogue between Argentinian artists art and artists from France. And we do this in internet. Instead of drawing this part, what we do, we actually draw that, put it in the paper, we fold it, we created it. And we started that in 2020. And we just finished. And we have to edit the book. So, but it's just happiness. That's art. There's a lot of artists like Guillermo Cuenca, Pamelas, Dr. Janons, and other artists from France. And it's great. Great. And you're always surrounded by other artists, always valuing the collaborative work, also your work as a mentor of a teacher, the art with younger artists. And Delia, one of your artwork as Broken Hearts from 1964, and that connection between the hearts and what's hanging, is that something more from your early days, which is still keeps on prevailing throughout your career? And if we focus on these ideas that represent so poetic and the influence from Leon's Carl, her influence, Adventures of Alice in the Wonderland, tell us, what does that mean, or that novel mean to you in your creative world? We want to know more about that. Lewis Carroll, in reality, is my go-to book. That's a book when I was a little girl. First, I read it in the Robin Hood's books. Argentinians can remember that. And when I was older and I was able to read in English, I read them directly in English, and the original versions were great. But that book meant everything. It was the meaning of creativity, freedom, because I connected with that. I felt I was the same way. Being an educated little girl, I seemed to be very peaceful, and I was convinced. And I want to talk about something really funny. I remember when I was a little girl with my sister that you were not able to get married with the prince during those times. The prince will get married with the princess, and you were not able to do that. And I asked myself, why not? We can get married with whomever we want. Look, that now I like to just crack up about that, because there is the example of those Prince Charming that get married with people have nothing to do with their status in life. The idea of being free that Alice had. And talking about the heart, well, I talk about the feminine condition, the idea of what the heart meant as a feminine symbol, flowers, ribbons, and like this, the symbol of the wrong symbol. It's a criticism in a way, maybe taken in that way, because in a given time we can say that I was pop. I never consider myself pop, but I am an artist, but it's the playfulness. And you can see here in the picture me in the middle of a heart participating and being part as an artist of this artwork. The artist is the artwork, art and life, which we were always interested in and we always talked about. Totally, kind of like our manifesto that we talk about, to be free and poetic. Yes, manifesto is that we love everybody. And deep inside the manifesto says we will love others. And I think we put the title in English because it's really difficult to put it right in Spanish. And we love the girl girls and the girl boys, or boy boys or boy girls, which we were talking about everything that is so open now. And and during Argentina in those times, we were not able to talk about that. And I think that's important with just with a tiny slight of innocence. We like sunny days. We used to love the pink color, silver color, but also it was that other thing that we were saying. It's not so innocent. In reality, we were a little bit more of a criticism than innocent. So talking about and the idea of pop, you were able to go far beyond the limits and the categories. And that's great that we can all enjoy, get inspired within your artwork. And Delia, I also enjoy a lot to discover a versatility in that was just powerful. You're always in the search of new possibilities. You're always jump from one place to another in a natural manner. It flows well, as we can see right now on the screen, who is the white dress of 2007. What can we talk about that as a metaphor of life? And clearly your artwork is part of connected with philosophy, literature, fashion. Tell us a little bit more about that unique work. And if you want, we can focus on this, on the white dress, and also with the sculptures. I started the sculptures. I'm trying to remember when. Losing the voice. I think you started in 2000, but I'm sure you have some other previous experiences. We always worked with dresses, with the fabric, with the smoothness, with textile, and the circumstances that white dress in reality it started being a dress. And it got to the point that it started to evolve and it created a shape. And that red knot that we see is that red thread that we see. It comes out from the heart that it starts to extend, which it symbolizes love. And that red thread needs to continue. It needs to cross the world. And I always repeat that it has to go and cross the entire world because what's going to save us now is just it's art and love. and universal love, the real one. Not sure if I'm making sense because it's really difficult to understand that just here in a conversation, but I do have certain texts that I use when I try to create something, which in those texts I try to explain why the red thread, for instance, the thread, they symbolize the work. For instance, on the tribute of the female artists, this thread covers a lot of artists who sometimes were never recognized, that people don't know who they are. And it's a moment where I think we need to focus on that. And by luck, we can do that totally. And one of your series that is more that stands out is one of your favorite ones where you actually put out different artists that they're part of your catalog, the constant surge, other paths, taking elements from the day-to-day life, but also from the universal story. Can you tell us a little bit more about this artwork that we're looking at right now? And also, what was your inspiration? Well, in reality, when I started working on this, in reality, is just to portray my favorites. My favorites can be real people, fictitious, just it can be real or not. And which are my favorites? What are we always doing? We always talk about the same thing. So I started working what we can see. Van Gogh, Victoria Campo, Asecaparelli, Lewis Carroll. It's all of these images that you see. Some of the people I did meet, some I didn't. And Tortoro, who was I drew that while they were looking into the mirror per se, and these characters were the favorite ones that I had during that time. I work this way using the book as a support. Why? Because not all books are to read. Not all music is created to for us to listen. Sorry to say that, but it's true. I use books that I bought, that I purchased as an additional tool of support. What I wanted to do, I wanted to draw in 3D. And in these artwork, we can see the 3 dimensions, meaning we can see them from every single way. And I think that I accomplished that, and I'm happy. And on some of them, like on Vittorio Campo, we have the book and what is left is the shape of it, but the book is not there. It has a lot of readings. I love that one. It's something that I really like. And from that same series, which is being right now showcasing at the Campo Museum in Argentina, from the same artwork, I created a series that is Tenic series. I can't help you with that on Mac. And from those same books, and the images from Botanica. Would love to see that in person. And Delia, as you mentioned, you use this as a imaginary vehicle of the feminine world, and I wanted to focus on in your art piece. We're seeing right now the dresses, and if we go to the next images, we see this B02 in blue. You actually introduce us on those intimate moments when you were telling us previously alongside your career, you render a tribute to Bonar. What is the message behind all these beautiful pieces? Mainly it was love for Bonar. I met Bonar for a long time since I was in school, but one day I saw some samples from Bonar and I was totally fascinated because I felt really connected, identified. I really liked the interior, what you can hold, the part on the inside. And I did not really expand. I can move and do so, but I'm not really focused on the exterior. And Bonar, I noticed that he was that. And Bonar used to work with its surroundings. So I decided to take Bonar's image, which was, you can see that I drew there, and I reproduce a Bonar painting using a phone with a book. And after that, I take the people who are around me, they're my assistants in the using the food, the books, the painting, the coffee. And I took pictures in a way that Bonar, because I was really interested in which way Bonar, where was Bonar looking to, from where, which is really interesting to know from where. So I started getting pictures starting from him. That's why the artwork was called I Love You, I Hate You, and how I can keep love you above all. Because sometimes it's love or hate that we can have with art. That love and hate that we can have with other artists. And to say, how can this be? How can this be? And Bonar and Teoyo, why are they so great? Their artwork is so great that I hate it because it's so great, so beautiful. And at the same time, it's breathtaking. And at the end, I end up loving them. I decided to pick a female because I thought that that's what should be. Then I also did some carvings. In the carvings, there's men. And that's how they are. It's two of my assistants. But that was the idea, to take my surroundings and to work within the inside. During that time, that's what I needed. And I think I accomplished that. And, I always think with our gatherings in the afternoon in your home in colegiales, with the lights, the sun coming in through the window, your books, you always create through your artwork and to be in contact with you, that intimate world, which is great. And Delia, to end up and to continue talking about your inspiration, and then open up the Q&A with the audience, I would like to know about your current exposition, which is in Buenos Aires, the exposition Treasure or Tesoro, which I was able to visit a few weeks ago with our friend Chachi Danon, the duos, and they share credits with you, and also with Sofia Torres Cosip, where they were invited to revisit the collection of the Fortaban art from a contemporary lens, and each of the artists picked a particular piece. And if you can introduce that into your current exposition and also tell us how you pick Raquel Obran's piece Representative from 1949, and how are you building this site with drawings? You included nature inside of the museum. Yes. Well, I didn't need anything. I went straight to the point. When they told us to pick, I knew that I was going to go there where Raquel Forner was, her painting, which is the face of a female who has a bird on top of her head and she's looking into the sky. That was the Raquel Eponers of Raquel Forner during the war. And when I was 12 and I went to the fine arts school, I was fascinated. And even though Raquel Ford used to seem more dramatic, I felt that there was a lot of good connection. I was direct, and I said Raquel Forner. It was obvious, without a doubt. The title of showing my living room and having eyes in sky and birds on her head. And that's what I wanted to portray. I wanted to work with poetry. That's what I want. That's what I was interested in. I think Raquel Forner, that's what she also has. That's why I drew this canvas, which is 9 meters, which I left my health there because I can't paint so much. But you added paint, language, words, was did, and I added things in volume, piece of threads, and in fabric. All of that was done in a unique way. The 9 meters didn't go inside of this workshop, and I started to fold. I would paint 1 meter, and then I used to fold and so forth. I started off, let's say, from the right hand side. Therefore, when I extended it in the sample towards the end, kind of like a Japanese idea, right? Yes. If you read the end to what's supposed to be the beginning, you see all the destruction, and there's the fire, nature, everything is destroyed, and it starts changing, and then you come into the flowers, the rebirth. Yes, a rebirth. In reality, I painted that backwards. I first created rebirth and then destruction. And then I had to question myself, where's the beginning? Where's the beginning and after? What's happening? So what we can see here is what you can see here on the piece of fabric that is hanging. I talk about a poem from San Antonio. I work a lot for this, and I worked a lot with poets, with their texts. For me, in reality, I started base with the drawings. Throughout the pandemic, I always draw, but throughout the pandemic, I was drawing in bed. That's how my back was feeling. But I drew everything in in my bed. So drawing and drawings and drawings that I started incorporating. And after that, when we were invited, I created a video performance with a great team. A camera with Tate Modern, with Brenda Baronen, who helped me on the directing part. And the actress that did this part was Iles in Front. Iles in Front is a young actress who in reality is really like me. So it's clearly that she's portraying to be me, and it was powerful. That was done in the middle of the fields. It was incredibly cold, and she's naked throughout the time. And I also participated in the video, but it was great. In reality, for me, was pure poetry, and it is. We were able to achieve that. And that entire video, part of the drawings and all of the sites, for instance, what we can see there as a black shape is a thread that she has, which really doesn't cover her anything. Everything nearby is birds. And we also can see some fruits behind that. And we created a ball that symbolizes the world, and where her and we stab ourselves with the knife, and that's what we're doing. We're doing that. We're destroying that. And I really enjoyed this, and it includes the drawings, which is from 2005. They are a little bit more older, and I don't know what else can I say. We can also see in the walls that they're connecting with the red thread. And you mentioned that it's a motive in your artwork. Yes, it's a thread that connects. Which it breaks our heart. And one of those pieces, there is a character who is stitching his heart. That's what I talk about in reality, since the same thing since I started, which I talk about the woman and nature and pain and destruction, and also talk about love, happiness, and that we need to laugh. We need to be good with ourselves. And I feel that it's important that we need to be aware of things that happen, and that we can't let us win over that. For me, this is important to keep going. That's how it is. And I have very limited with my voice. No, we can hear you well. Not sure how am I speaking right now. No, Delia, we would be here hours hearing you out. It's great to hear you, to get to know your intimate and personal world. That's an inspiration. And well, if you are ready with Solimar, we can go ahead and open the Q&A for a bit alongside with the attendees in case if they have a question. in case if they have a specific question that we didn't talk about, but the idea is to continue thinking about your message, your artwork, and we thank you a lot because just to hear you is pleasure, pure pleasure to have your pieces. And Solimar, whenever you're ready, we can go ahead and get started with the Q&A. First of all, thank you so much because it has been a pleasure to share with you about your career. One of the questions that comes up from the public is how the reactions when they see your work or with the sculptures or the fashion work that you have done, because fashion on the textile fashion is something that is really present in Latin America. Have you had any type of reaction with the audience? Have they made any comments? I didn't understand. Thinking about the story of using the textile in Latin America, the fabrics that they use, people who are always up to date with fashion. I come, for instance, from Puerto Rico. They have a lot of fashion and it's huge over there. How's how people or the public have reacted when they see the reinterpretation of the artwork that you do? For instance, like using the thread. Well, in general, they are abstract artwork. It's not just a thread. In reality, the first art piece that I created about this, it was created several years ago. And I created a huge dress and it was covered with flowers. And as I mentioned, it was a book. It was a dress to cover a lot of bodies. Is that idea to cover the community, to be together, to do things together. And I think that since I started from the beginning with that piece, I continued, and that my idea was to cover not just a body, even though it's always a body. And the reaction from the public is always, it's really well. I mean, not sure what to say because I don't have, for instance, the idea that the dress goes alongside with drawings that they're stitched on or using the thread as a working symbol, and that the pictures from those women are so to that thread. I think that's also with the feminine work and what women should do. And just to let you know, I hate sewing. So in general, what I do, I draw really well and I sew really well, but I just don't like it. But in general, I have assistants who can do that for me. I think public is ready to receive all of this. And also, I don't want to scare anyone. I think things can be said. And I don't take well violence or aggressiveness. I think there's a lot of violence now. What I do is not violent. It's straightforward, but we are talking and seriously, I want to think and create awareness. But I do not try to, if somebody else moves, what I'm interested in, that the viewer who sees the piece puts that on and takes it with them. I try to open heads, not to break them. Do I make any sense? Is it clear? Completely, yes. And very necessary, as you mentioned. Well, with that said, we are up to our final time. We want to thank you, your generosity for sharing your time, your knowledge, and with the waiting to see what you're going to be doing in the future, because you still have a lot of things to share with the world. Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. Yes, we have a lot of work to do for a long time, and happy that you are part of this series of conversation, sharing with all of us your ideas, your thought process, and to help us think about our current present, create a better future. And as you mentioned, starting with respect and love and caring for the world of human beings as well. Mhm. Because we are part of the world, of the planet. We are human beings. The idea of man, woman, animal, we have to stop that. Yeah. It's calm down, and we are part of that. And when we learn that, when we realize that, I already noticed that, but there's some people that still don't notice that. I think that's what I'm trying to portray, is that people come into my artwork, the idea of the video within the video of the last video performance, and people can actually join and feel that they can understand better. Is it a lot to ask? I'm not sure. But we're going to continue this chat. We're going to have this on our files with MOLAA. It's going to be there. And good thing that we can think and reflect together and share life experiences of creation. And Delia, dear, thank you so much. You're such an inspiration. Thank you so much for inviting me. Sorry, but I don't have any voice left, but we're able to hear you great. And thank you so much. I have a lot of desire to hug you, but it's not possible. Well, send you a lot of kisses, huge kisses. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody who were on today's sessions. We would like to invite you to come back for the MOLAA Zoom project, was going to be celebrating on December 14. It's going to be the last one for 2022. This will be the last one, and it's going to be the chapter 28 with Oscar Castillo. We will see you soon. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.